Hello and welcome to your astrological forecast for July 2023. If you like the video, press the like button and please become a subscriber. It all helps build on this astrological world. So July 2023, I'm recording this on the 29th of June. So let's look at the planets that are going to have an influence. And some of the zodiac signs that will need to be a bit wary, and some zodiac signs that are doing rather well. So July is interesting. There is kind of lots going on. I think the first thing that I want to talk about is retrogrades. So we had Saturn moving retrograde around about the 17th of June, and it remains retrograde for a long period of time. Now, that's at Pisces, and it starts off at 7 degrees in Pisces, and by the end of the month, it's at 5 degrees. Now, that's important, particularly if you're born in the first few days of the sun going into Pisces from the 19th of February to around about the 24th, 25th. The same if you're born in the first kind of degrees of Virgo. So, that'll be from about the 23rd of August till around about the 29th of August. Then, you too are affected by that Saturn energy, which is self-discipline, limitations, maturity, and understanding the world is a bit more complicated than you thought. And how does society view you, and how do users view your role in society? So it's about a lot of the time following the rules and regulations when dealing with the energy of Saturn from a kind of collective basis. So Saturn went into Pisces on the 7th of March. So in this retrograde, we get a chance to look at some of the policies, cultural issues that have been going on since March to the middle of June, and how they are affecting society as well. We've also got Neptune that is retrograde in Pisces. That's hanging around about the 27 degree mark. So again, if you're born sort of, around about the sort of 17th, 18th, 19th of March, then that nebulous energy is very much around you. At the same token, if you're born in that late degrees of Virgo, sort of 20th, 21st, 22nd of September, then again, you're being affected by that Neptunian energy, which can be hard to get hold of, can be hard to understand what your motivations are, but also the motivations of the people around you and how that's affecting them, and it's how it's affecting you. So your sensitivity is increased quite a bit. Also, Pluto is retrograde. It's gone back into Capricorn. So as I said in the previous video, we're getting a lot of people coming out of the woodwork that were sort of, big players, let's say, in the news, politically, economically, culturally, coming back into the media. Donald Trump was a good example, Boris Johnson, these kind of people who had an impact, particularly the last 3 or 4 years, are back in the news, and there's a lot going on about them. And that will probably continue until the January 2024, when Pluto goes back into Aquarius, and therefore doesn't have those individuals don't have so much of an impact as they once did. Okay, so just looking at the planets from an individual, Mercury starts off in Cancer before around about 11th, 12th, going into Leo. And then right at the end, on the 29th of July, it goes into Virgo. Obviously, it's in its rulership in Virgo, so it's extremely happy. But you have a retrograde to contend with in August in Virgo. So for Virgos, that will put quite a high emphasis on that energy of, delays and complications. But Mercury's moving relatively fast. Venus starts off in Leo, where it's comfortable, and then what we've got is the first big real retrograde, really, when Venus goes retrograde around about the 23rd of July. Now, this is going to be retrograde until around about 4th or 5th September. Venus retrograde, I always say about Venus, it's about how we relate, the customs of how we integrate with people, how we, what are the rules, regulations in terms of meeting people or social occasions, the etiquette, and also with relationships. Particularly with the Leos and Aquarians, and if you have a lot of planets in those two signs, then you are affected by this particular retrograde. There's a lot going on in terms of how you are viewed in relationships and how you respond in relationship situations, but also how you relate to other people on a social engagement. Venus rules artistic cultural movements, that might mean that there is a kind of an influx of artistic movements that we've seen before, or even a celebration of that, coming into the news quite a bit. It definitely, Venus retrogrades definitely slows down the energy of social occasions and social planning. It tends to slow things down quite a bit. So it's kind of understanding that. So that's a big one with Venus. But it's not for that long. August, and as early September, it starts going direct. Right beside Venus, of course, we've got Mars. Starts off in Leo. Very fiery kind of energy, that thing. And, it's kind of interesting because that in the first sort of 2 weeks of July, it's hanging on, mentioning him. I've mentioned him twice now, Donald Trump's ascendant, and therefore there might be some news around him certainly coming up. And then it switches to Virgo, which is around about the 11th. Mars in Virgo is kind of temperamental. Obviously, Virgo's a mutable sign. It can instigate a certain verbal assertiveness or aggression, particularly in how we communicate. And if you couple that with the Venus retrograde, then people could get a lot of misunderstandings and stuff like that. Again, it's emphasizing the axis between Virgo and Pisces a lot this month. So if you've got those two signs of the zodiac heavily in your charts, then this is going to be an interesting 4 weeks coming up for you in July. Particularly from the middle of July, I'd say. Jupiter, the traditional ruler of Pisces, is in Taurus. It starts off at 9 degrees, ends at 13 degrees. Very, very happy in there, moving forward. Again, if you've got planets at Taurus at around about 10 to 15, 16 degrees, then the expansion quality of Jupiter, good luck and fortune, depending on where you look at it, is coming. Sometimes with Jupiter, I often say you've just got to notice which are the real opportunities and which are the opportunities that basically are just full of hot air. So there's that. Uranus as well, rocketing through Taurus. It starts off 21 degrees, ends at 22 degrees in Taurus. Jupiter and Uranus are kind of they're in Taurus. They're not quite making a conjunction, but they sort of are influencing slightly each other. And again, if you're a Taurian that is born sort of, I would sort of say about the 12th, 13th, kind of 10th to the 13th of May, then you are affected. Things may be turning upside down. Few surprises that are around at the moment. And Taurus doesn't like surprises, does it? So, but you've got to just be open and remain open. So we have a full moon on the 3rd in Capricorn at 11 degrees. That to me is not really affecting too much. And then we've got the then we've got the new moon on the 17th at 24 degrees in Cancer. So yeah, there's quite an emphasis on that kind of energy of the home and the career, and the polarities playing out between the two quite heavily. So it's just kind of being kind of aware of that kind of energy on a collective level that's around quite a bit. For me. Um, there's a lot of, particularly in the UK, but I think most of the world, a lot of economic uncertainty and stuff like that. I think this is a lot of it's down to Jupiter and Uranus in Taurus, because Taurus is a stable sign, and Jupiter is a sign as a planet that expands and magnifies things. It's a bit like Jupiter. They both seem to magnify issues, and Uranus is unpredictable. And so the two in the sign of Taurus is kind of making things a little bit kind of seemingly bigger, or the issues bigger than they might be, but also unpredictable. And it's just to kind of remain grounded in it as well, I think, particularly because Jupiter is the traditional ruler of Pisces, and Pisces is the 12th sign of zodiac. I often put a lot of kind of like, media or advertising under the rulership of Pisces in a traditional sense, and therefore, or the illusion that can be made. And so Jupiter in Taurus is kind of making these things about property and about money and one's finances kind of bigger. I'm not saying that there isn't issues. There is issues, but I'm saying that it kind of magnifies and makes it a lot more seemingly more difficult. And there could be various reasons for that. So it's just being kind of grounded, being the Taurian way, being very much grounded and not allowing it to become a dominating force in your consciousness is what I would say at this particular point. And because Pluto and Neptune is also, and Saturn is retrograde, it will feel like we're all going a bit backwards at times. I'm not with July. I'm it's not one of the months where I think, oh my God, this is a really big month. But I feel it'll feel like things are just slowing down a little bit from where they've been. And I think that's the general feeling for a lot of people, that just things are slowing down a little bit. Unless you've got Aquarius, Taurus, Virgo, Pisces heavily in your charts, then it might be the complete opposite to that. Everything's sort of speeding up. But thank you very much for watching. Please like the video and become a subscriber, and I'll see you all soon for the next video. Thank you.